The Philippine Combative system is a weapon-based system, just like anything else in the Philippine martial arts. When you think about the weapons, you're always thinking about all these other weapons that may not be practical. You know, the good thing about the Philippine Combative system or the Philippine martial arts itself is we focus on the weapons that are very, very practical. The stick, which, you know, the club is what it is, and then the knife, which is a lot of people still carry a tactical knife. So it's very important to deal with those weapons. The most important part to understand is not because we're training with weapons doesn't necessarily mean that you're not understanding the practicality of things. Number one question that a lot of people do or have or ask is, what am I going to do and how am I going to fight with these sticks and the clubs and the knives? I don't want to train with that. Well, I just want you to know that it's actually safer to train with those. It increases your level of awareness when you're training with a blade.
Your level of awareness increases so much because you know that if you make just one simple mistake, you can get easily, cut, and it could cost you your life. And that's simple as that.
And the fact of the matter is, it is very, very practical to do them, because what you need to understand is there's a very practical hand-to-hand techniques of self-defense that goes with the weapons training, especially in the Philippine Combatives system. So once you start understanding how to use the sticks and, without having to block and hurting your hands, it's actually safer and more fun to deal with the weapons. Understand that's safer to deal with the weapons than a lot of kicks and the punches and all those good things. But the most important part is that anything that you will end up doing later on, you will end up doing with your empty hands. Therefore, making it everything that you've done and you've learned very, very practical to use in any kind of given situation when it comes to self-defense and fighting. The Philippine Combative system consists of all these different training methods. Number one, double stick training. We also call this doble baston. Why do we train with double sticks? Very simple. You have two hands. A lot of people try to practice with just one hand all the time and doing all that stuff, but you have to understand you also have to practice the left hand. The good thing about the double stick fighting system is that it helps you to make your dominant hand, whether that is a right hand, powerful, but it also gives your weak hand, if that's your left hand, the same way of training. You're not just training with one hand all the time, and then you're not understanding how to use your left hand or your right hand in this case.
Just like the same thing like in the double stick fighting, right? If he comes over here, bam, you can go ahead and strike him, trust him, disarm this thing. If he comes, boom, you can strike this one, trust that, disarm this, and then go ahead and do your double sinawali.
The best thing to do is actually practice your double sinawalis and things like that, so you can start practicing the way, better coordination for your body and your hands, hand-eye coordination and everything else. So this is what we call the double stick training, which is, a lot of the Philippine martial arts do, but we don't emphasize on it when it comes to fighting. So we have some coordination drills that we deal with double stick fighting, and we have some fighting systems that we actually do when it comes to fighting with double sticks, because you're going to be fighting with two hands.
Say, for example, if he comes over here and strikes here, bam, I disarm, now I have two sticks. I ended up with two sticks, although I started with one stick. So you have to understand how to be able to fight yourself or using the two sticks as well, not just a single stick, because that is very, very important, just in case you're able to disarm the opponent or you ended up with two sticks somehow.
So the good thing about the Philippine Combative system is you have a very, very complete system of double stick fighting that you can implement or study, therefore making yourself a better martial artist. If you are a beginner, also gives you a great chance to actually just go ahead and get into, learning how to use and utilize both of your empty hands. Single stick fighting is one of the things that we also focus on. Why? Because you also got to work on your dominant hand. That's your right hand. You need to be able to learn how to strike with that right hand, so that way you can knock him out. But the most important part with the single stick fighting is not just the fact that we're just hitting somebody with the stick. It is the fact that we can utilize the long range of fighting. We call malayo, the middle range of fighting, and then of course the short range of fighting. Therefore, you start understanding how to utilize your fighting skills and distance when it comes to you fighting somebody. It's not just a traditional stuff. You treat the weapon and the stick or the sword as, you know, as traditional sword to cut, but it's also used as an impact weapon. In our single stick fighting, the great thing is we use it as a traditional strike when we're trying to strike somebody with it, but also as a modern approach to where we're actually treating it as a impact weapon, to where we can grab it, poke you with it, grab your hands, disarm you with it, and so on and so forth. So it doesn't only consist of traditional stick fighting of striking somebody. It consists of striking, countering systems, blocking systems, and then the most important parts, you know, locking system and follow-ups. So that way you start understanding the full spectrum of why you're fighting with one stick in your dominant hand. A lot of people talk about knife fighting and this and that, but you have to understand how to fight somebody with a knife. It's a very serious thing. You know, you have to learn how to do it offensively. You have to learn how to do it defensively. And it's just different, you know, training for different people, to a citizen, to law enforcement officers, and everything else. But the good thing about, you know, the things that we do in the Philippine Combative system is really simple. We start, number one, analyzing and understanding the fact that you will not fight with, you know, a regular knife. You need to fight with a tactical knife. So how would you open that knife? Do you even know how to do that? How would you try to open it silently if you have to? How would you use the different parts of that knife? How would you fight from the ground when you have a knife? How would you be able to stand or, you know, have your stance on the ground when you get pushed?
Offensively or defensively, you can learn how to properly use the knife against somebody grabbing you over here. See, you can go, there's already a cut, boom. You can go for a kill, or just for basic offensiveness or defensiveness. Instead of being offensive, I come over here, see, bam, see, this one over here, I'm just using the puño of the knife. I'm not even opening it up yet. In this case, when somebody grabs over, what do you do? How do you protect this knife? How do you stand? What do you do and how to open it? How would you open it and such, and how would you position yourself when you're able to open the knife? So these are the things that are very important. The same thing when you're on the ground and everything else. How would you be able to protect yourself from somebody that's maybe kneeing you or something, or grabbing you, and you're trying to protect your knife?
These are the different things that you need to understand. Knife fighting is not just knife fighting standing up. You can easily cut anybody up without any problem. That's not a problem at all. The most important part is understanding the weapon you carry, and you are going to be carrying a tactical knife. So we start our training with a tactical folder, because that's what you're going to be carrying most of the time. You need to be able to utilize them. A lot of people don't understand this, but the most important part in the knife fighting that we have in the system of the Philippine Combatives is that we focus on a lot of these different, you know, things. We don't try to neglect the fact that you have to, you know, use the tactical folder. You have to use it as a reverse grip. You have to use the knife to cut into slice, and the knife to poke and to thrust, and all these different things. And then the what ifs. What happens if somebody were able to grab you and control you, and so on and so forth? What would you do then? So it's really a big, rounded knife fighting system that you can benefit from. And why? Because you probably, in your state or your country, it's still legal to carry this tactical knife. So you need to be able to learn how to do that. It's a great equalizer among, you know, multiple attacks. So this is the reason why we focus on these things and be able to use them effectively, offensively and defensively. Mano-mano, the hands. How would you strike with the hands? The things that we do with the striking of the sticks and everything else is the same. They're nothing but angles. When you do a strike like this or a poke, it's the same thing like an eye jab. You know, it's short range, there's a far range like this, utilizing the tip of the stick. And in a close range and the, you know, middle range, you can utilize your elbow. And then or your knees, and in a close range fighting, you can start gouging and closing in and grappling and taking them down and controlling them and all that stuff. This is what consists, what are the parts of the mano-mano system. What makes a mano-mano system or any empty hand system effective is, number one, you need to understand how to understand different angle of attacks, not techniques. Techniques are easy. But once you start understanding angles and such things that we focus on, then you know it's just coming from the right hand, whether that is a strike with this or an elbow there, it's the same exact thing.
In Philippine martial arts, we connect the dots for you by understanding concepts of angles, okay? Let's say, for example, I go over here and he gives me a swing. This is a right angle. It could be a hook. It could be a back fist, okay, with the right, that side over there. Okay, it's a back fist from that side. It could be an elbow. Okay, it could be an elbow with the right hand. But you see what I'm saying? Everything is coming from that angle. It's right to the left. Whether that is come over here, whether that is a hook over here, back fist over there, an elbow over here, or maybe a round kick over there. What I'm saying is the same exact thing. It's nothing but it's coming that angle. When we start understanding that, you start understanding how to deal with that angle, the only thing that's important is that it's coming from that angle. That's it. If it's coming from this angle, left or right, see? That's it. Whether that is the left hand or the right hand or maybe both, it doesn't matter because for you, it's just coming from this angle. Whether that's a grab over here, whoa! I just know that it's coming from that angle. I have to deal with this angle. If it's going here, touching here, or maybe that's a knife, or it's touching your head, or something like that, or maybe it's trying to grab your throat, that's now a straight angle, right? Because it didn't go from the top to the bottom, it goes from straight forward. So now I have to learn how to deal with a straight angle.
If you start understanding to deal with a straight angle of attack, then it's easy. When you start understanding how to deal with somebody, going and grabbing your head, that's nothing but a downward, strike. So in Philippine Combatives MANO-MANO system, we focus on a lot of these things. We start utilizing the different strikes that we have and understand the fact that they're nothing but extensions. Extensions, when we start doing the sticks, the techniques came from stick fighting itself. So when you're doing the knife techniques or the stuff, you're thinking like, there's just nothing but knife, but they're also your empty hands. These are where, the knife, the empty hand techniques that we have in the Philippines originated from the weapon training. And this is the cool part because we learn how to deal with the weapons and then we translate them into the hands easily. And then when we start dealing with the hands, because before you're dealing with the knives and the clubs, then when you're dealing with the hands, it's easy because it's no longer something that can cut you easily and kill you. Could be just a common grab or something. So that's nothing for us to deal with. But the most important part in the MANO-MANO system that we have, we utilize, again, ranges. You can utilize your kicking, you can utilize your kneeing, elbowing for the middle range, and then, of course, your grabbing techniques, locking techniques, and all these other things, and countering systems. The MANO-MANO system that we teach is very, very practical. It's very, very useful. You're not going to study any kind of, things that are not important, because we understand that when you deal with an empty hand, you need to be quick, you need to be easy to understand, you need to be able to learn it, and be able to not, even counter some movements if you have to when you get into that situation. So MANO-MANO system that we have in the Philippine Combative system is really, really awesome, and it's very, very practical, very easy for you to learn.